what I'll do is I will dismiss that, and I will hand over to yourself, Ian. And if you wouldn't mind just doing a quick introduction, and then we'll fire away.
Yeah, well, good evening, everybody. Beat back the crowds. Yeah, good evening. My name's Ian Bourne. My outfit's Cloud 2020, and we're Microsoft Dynamics 365 and Power Platform consultancy based in Gloucestershire, which is in West Country. So I'm going to talk to you for 30 minutes. Now I'm going to just put the slides up and she says, hopefully. Now, the last time I gave this presentation, it was an hour and a half and we overran. So, which probably kind of going to panic now. I'm going to do this in 30 minutes. And this is my spin on the partnership between Dynamics 365 Marketing and LinkedIn. So, clock's ticking. So, first question is, why is my screen not moving on? That's the third question. And I will find it and then find out why. There we go. So let's move on over there and go to the next screen. Okay. So, projecting.
Got the white screen there, Ian. Just a bit of a lag, maybe.
Cue PowerPoint. Right, in that case, what I'll do is I will turn it off. What? Come on. Okay. Over and do it manually. So, why is required to Dynamics and LinkedIn? Can you all see the screen now, folks? And see a rather view of PowerPoint, which decided to stop. Okay. Well, it was June 2016 when Microsoft put the hand in the pocket for $26.2 billion. That's not a small sum. And the reason is because in 2016, LinkedIn had 433 million members. The latest figures I got were from middle of last year. They got that up to 660 million members. So you're buying into a massive audience, basically. And that audience consumed 9 billion content impressions a week, of which the ratio of content to jobs was 15:1. And of that, 57% of the content consumed on mobile and 45 minutes per month per member average consumption. So what they're doing is they're buying an audience, and a seriously big audience. Okay. So what does it mean for Dynamics? Well, a couple of things. The integration of Sales Navigator and Sales, and also the integration of LinkedIn advertising into marketing. And somehow I'm going to achieve both of those in the next 21 minutes. So here we go. A couple of things though. Why is LinkedIn such an attraction for Microsoft rather than other social platforms? And I've squeezed it on here, but I'm sure kind of some slides out. If you look at this top left-hand screen tip here, what this is saying is you don't go to LinkedIn to be entertained, but you do go to LinkedIn if you want to improve your career, search for new opportunities, and learn from leaders and experts. Big difference between LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. If you look at the trust level here, then LinkedIn is leaps ahead. And bear in mind, this was last year. So I think this, if you compare that to what's happened recently with a few things coming out of Facebook, what have you, I think you'll find that's certainly no less than 70% now. And then things like platform most likely to protect your data and privacy, most likely to show your less likely to show you deceptive content. Interesting one again. I think that's probably one further even. And also this one here, I love this one, which has the most annoying ads, and Facebook wins ads. Brilliant. Okay, so let's talk about advertising. So I'm going to talk about some of the issues around this first, and then we're going to have a look. So this is screen supposed to build. You shouldn't have a read screen. The way to advertise on LinkedIn. Sorry, just going back to that last slide, the whole thing about trust. One thing you may have noticed is Microsoft and LinkedIn are still very much two separate companies. And the stated intention is they will remain two separate companies. I'm sure most of us on this call know of lots of other companies that Microsoft have bought and they've been consumed and disappear. That's not happening with LinkedIn. And that's a very deliberate strategic and policy decision. LinkedIn is seen to be a members organization and Microsoft want it to remain that way. And therefore it's not brought it into the main fold of Microsoft and consumed it, rebranded it or anything. It's still a separate report organization. If you want to advertise on LinkedIn, certain things you need. First of all, there are 20 dimensions that you can apply to a search when you're trying to target and segment. But you really need to do that because what you need to do is to really match your audience to who it is you're trying to speak to. And that's the holy grail of marketing, this promised. And if you get that right, the messaging is almost secondary. So to do that, you need to define your personas. Now, I don't know if you ever tried to do that, but trying to work out who is the individual that if they hear my message is going to react, really, again, very difficult. So start broad and narrow down. Like LinkedIn suggests you should be looking at an initial target audience in the region of excess of 20,000. Now, I don't know if you've done the sums, but you start marketing to 20,000 people, it's going to get expensive. So if you're targeting SMBs like we are, which is 96% of the companies in the United Kingdom, you could, if you're not careful, consume your budget very rapidly. So be careful of that. But start broad and then narrow it down. And the important thing is make one change at a time and measure it and record it. As I say, minimum target audience here, as recommended by LinkedIn, really, unless you've got a corporate budget, is a little bit challenging. So, be realistic. You're not going to do it. Now, the other thing about this is, I'll come down to that in a minute, segment by region. So experiment, like I say, try it, set a budget, set a timeline, so it times out, go and have a look, make some adjustments, try again. One little thing, there's a metric in there about seniority, ignore it. Instead, go by, years of experience, ignore that, go by seniority. People these days are moving faster through the seniority grades than they are through clocking up experience. So, careers are slightly different structures these days. And segment by region. I'll tell you why it's important. I was talking to a guy who had put a lot of budget into LinkedIn advertising, but hadn't narrowed down the region. And what happened was he was consuming most of his budget before his target audience were even getting up in the morning. So it got gone by 3 o'clock in the morning. His audience getting up at 8 o'clock GMT, and the budget was gone. So bear that one in mind. Right. So now, before you start actually advertising, do your homework. Build your presence in LinkedIn. And there are some key things you need to do. And there's some really good tutorials actually on LinkedIn on how to do this, but just basics. Make sure you've got a logo, make sure you've got a good tagline, your description's up to date. You've plotted your industry size and location in your profile, and you must engage. So these are some metrics, these 2 metrics, flip a bit of a switch in LinkedIn. So post at least once every 30 days. Don't post once every 30 minutes. Nobody wants that, but at least one every 30 days, and get yourself 150 followers. That gets you on the LinkedIn map. Now, there's a little thing called content suggestions in LinkedIn. Go and have a look at that, because that will determine again the type of audience you're looking at and the type of subject you're interested in, or your audience might be interested in, and LinkedIn will give you content suggestions for you to follow or to comment on. That's a really good way of increasing that presence and also gaining followers. And then manage your page analytics, work out who's following you, where, and what have you, and use that to feed back into the whole persona piece. Right, I'm rushing through this, guys, and well, nothing else, but hopefully you're picking up some tips here. Like I say, there's some really good tutorials on LinkedIn, and that will guide you through this. Okay, if I can really find my cursor now. So right, so choose your or weapons. Advertising on LinkedIn, you have now all these different ad formats, and you can see which ones are most beneficial. Video ads stand out head and shoulders above all the others, but they're more difficult and more complex and possibly more costly for you to produce. Although having said, there's a lot more of a trend these days, getting away from the glitzy corporate style videos and literally get a selfie stick and a phone and record something that's really natural, honest, and spoken to the camera, and it works just as well, and it's cheap. The other one to mention up on here is the dynamic ad. This is where, and I'll show you one in a minute, where it puts a picture of the person you're talking to alongside an image. Now, the image could be your picture, so it makes it's really eye-catching. It makes you look like you're actually someone who's bothering to talk to you, and I'll show you that one in a minute. The other thing, the reason I mentioned weapons is because you should always do at least 4 separate ads in any campaign, a minimum of 4. So that's different text within them. Put at least 4 up. If necessary, stop them, pause the campaign, go back in, have a look. The first time we did this, 2 of them absolutely tore away from the other 2, so we closed them down. We went back to those 2. We took clones of those 2 and did some trials with different formats and different graphics and what have you. And again, we built then some idea of what actually was clicking with our audience. And then monitor. I'm not going to go into this in too much depth, but really go in and monitor. And they've got fantastic metrics for you to look at and to feed back on. Obviously, the basic campaign stuff, but also within the campaign, you can monitor who is actually going into and looking at your ads by demographic or what have you. So, is it the right demographic? If not, go back and change it. If it is the right demographic, go and do some more, and so on. And then obviously the actual outcome, which is conversions. Okay, so mindful of the time, I'm now going to move to this. So I'm actually using live data. Well, it's stale live data, okay? But for GDPR purposes, if you see a name of somebody you know here or don't know, please don't phone them. I'll probably end up in jail. So I'm looking at some guy called Connor Doyle here in my Dynamics, my Sales Hub. Now, I'm showing you here the integration of LinkedIn Sales Navigator into Dynamics. And in here, we actually see this guy, Connor Doyle, and I know him quite well. And I've added him to one of my Sales Navigator lists, and he's actually in my superheroes list. Okay, like build up superheroes list, right? And I can also, from in here, I can actually message Connor through LinkedIn directly from within here. Not only that, I can look at my LinkedIn company profile of where Connor works, and I can see all the other employees there as well. Now, if that isn't the right company, I can remove that link and go and get it to do a research and get the right organisation. So that's Connor Doyle. Now, if I look at Connor in Sales Navigator, I can message Connor in here. Option expired, jolly good. So from within here, to member profile, I can create a message in here, and and there's a little button down here. I've already tagged this to save in. So I'll send that. Well, then I could corner here. I'll do a refresh and the message. He says, fingers crossed. In a minute. When it's spitting out itself, navigator back. You'll notice here that this is the previous one I did this morning when I tested it. So this is actually a Sales Navigator message showing now in the timeline, along with all the other things you can show in a timeline in Dynamics. Okay, now there's this guy here called Martin Doyle. And if we look in here, then you'll see that it is in Sales Navigator. So if I go back into my contacts and search for, I thought I'd search Martin Doyle, but it's look up. Martin Doyle. Yes, right, okay. So we'll open up Martin Doyle. And if you look at the LinkedIn member on here, and he is, yes, text. What I'll do is just show it work. Excuse the speed of my lightning internet. We are getting the fibre brought in next week, so it'll be 4 years. That will increase by 300%. We can't wait. Right. Okay. So he's already saved this in here, so therefore, yeah, I was going to actually tag him in here and add him in, but he's already in there. Right. So LinkedIn in Sales Navigator in Dynamics, really, really powerful. Now, one question I get asked time and time again is, you put stuff in from Sales Navigator into Dynamics. So could I have a little magic button here that pushes that information into Dynamics? And up until recently, the answer was no. And the answer was because GDPR says you can't scrape information electronically into this data. However, if you can get your hands on an enterprise license for Sales Navigator, which I can't because they are refusing to answer my question about how much is it, how to buy it, but I have tried, then now you can actually copy and move the data from Sales Navigator into your right, so that's LinkedIn in Dynamics. Now, the other thing I want to talk about, is got 7 minutes left, is the actual marketing, the link between marketing and Dynamics 365 marketing. So in here, so I have various personas, but I have one that is linked. I currently don't have any active campaigns, but if I did, it would be in here. And I've had various profiles, it's a demo version. And over here, I've got various LinkedIn accounts. So when you create like a page in LinkedIn, so we had a here for working colleagues in Travi Artists or Gary. We've also got our 365 asset management tool in there. It has got its own page in LinkedIn. This sync finds those for you. I've not set those up. It knows that these are linked to me because I'm synced as a user. This is marketing here, and you go right to the bottom of the page, you'll find down here into lead generation. And from that, you can get, this is really cool. So in LinkedIn, if you, so for example here, oh, this is the advert I was telling you about. You see there's a picture of me and then there's a logo. What's even more powerful is if instead of putting your logo in there, you put a picture facing from right to left, it would look like we're actually having a conversation. And that's a really good way of hooking people into it. Oh, hello. Now, if the call to action in LinkedIn is normally a click. So if you click on there, that can either take them through to your website or what have you, or into a form, which could be a Dynamics form. But the really clever one is if you click on that and it takes you through to a LinkedIn form, because you're still currently in LinkedIn and therefore you're logged in and you trust LinkedIn, and therefore it pre-populates the form for you. Okay, so just think about this. You might want an advert up there saying, you know, something like Matt's later on going to talk about his SMB option. On SMB, looking for the best system, pick a button. Okay. Form pops up, and you tell it what that form wants to gather. It could be first name, last name, email address, company name, company size. You know, I suggest you get 2 emails. but it's all pre-populated from the data about that LinkedIn member in that form. So one click to open the form. Do you want to proceed? Yes. Another click, form is submitted. No one's had to type anything. So it greases the path for people to submit a form to you. Now, once they submit a form to you, it will go into, it will come in as a lead gen form submission. Okay, so if you look into it, you can track into here, you can map data so you know exactly where it's come from and all the rest of it, and then you can create the source campaign and the referrer off the back of that. So that can be done. Okay, brilliant. So you've now got to come in. What you then have is leads. Now, what I've got here is I've got leads referred from LinkedIn, and so I've just sorted this to show you that that's happened. So these are leads that come straight in from LinkedIn and now appearing in my 365. Now, this is very simple segmentation. Bear in mind that we haven't yet had a chance to play with the new event trigger processes that have come out with wave 1 of Dynamics 365 for marketing yet, which will take this to the next level. So the event in this case would be submission of a LinkedIn form, and then you could do a lot more with it, like send notifications and all that kind of good stuff. SMS, isn't it? So what I've done here is in this example, the one little filter show me all the LinkedIn form submissions using this form, and that form name comes from LinkedIn. So to Dynamics 365 Marketing is talking to LinkedIn and saying, okay, what forms have you got available for me? I've got that one. Okay, that's the one I'll use. Once you do that, you'll then get anyone that submits a form on that form will become a member of this segment. Okay. Now, I won't show you the inside stuff like that because you get to see names and things, and that's where it gets a bit iffy on GDPR. Now, so once you've done that, you can then put them on a customer journey, of which is an example. So in this case here, they were on this subscription list here, or this actually, in fact, that's a subscription list, but it could be that segment, and then they start the journey. In this case, they were sent an email, we checked if it was opened. If it was, we told them to wait till this particular date, and we sent another email. If not, we went down, we waited for a couple of days, we sent them another email. If that was open, blah blah blah, we went on. And if not, we created a task and picked the phone up. And that's a very simple process. But you can see now, advert in LinkedIn into Dynamics as a form submission, creates a lead. Lead hits it, becomes a part of a segment. The Dynamics segment kicks off now, and because that segment's at the start of the customer journey, the customer is now engaged. Then what you do then is you check the lead scoring. So then you can create a lead scoring model specifically for that LinkedIn campaign. And over on the right hand side here, then you can create some grades of responses. So if somebody opens the email, you might add 30 points, and that's a specific email. If they go to a website or to URL, a redirect URL, which is linked to that website, then you can track it and you can give them some points, etc. And in this example, we've actually decreased it, the final total, because some email was then blocked. But then you can then grade these scoring models. So in this case, we've got vaguely interested from 0 to 10, quite interested 10 to 50, highly interested 50 to 100. The idea is then to take that customer on that journey to the point where they are highly interested, they're sales ready. At that point, you go in with your order pad. So where do we go from there? So just a little bit of a recap, and I'll pass back. Just a bit of summary and gotchas. First of all, decide your outcomes. So do you want to, when you're advertising LinkedIn, do you want to get more awareness of your brand, or do you want to actually attract people to an event? Do you actually want to create leads? Do you want to engage in a bigger audience? And once you've done that, there are models within the advertising format for you to pick and then add to. You can actually also then set the tracking in there, so also LinkedIn will more accurately track the outcome you wanted to achieve. Do your homework, as I say, so go and get all that stuff done in LinkedIn and get it right. Set limits. This is so crucial. So set limits, set a daily limit, set an overall target limit, set a time limit as well. Run it, spend time analyzing it. Don't just throw some more money at it. That's not going to work. And make sure you add lots of different options around the advertising, so you've got something to compare. Segment accurately and appropriately. Well, that's the difficult bit. Beware of a couple of things in there. Enable audience expansion and LinkedIn audience network. These are two little cunning buttons that are hidden in the process when you're setting up your ads and what have you. Enable audience expansion gives LinkedIn the ability to say, well, I know you said that segment, but this is very close to it, and it's going to increase your audience. Okay, fine, but they're spending your budget without you being able to work out what that does initially. LinkedIn Audience Network means it doesn't just go out on LinkedIn, it goes out on associated websites as well. And again, you may not want to do that. Test. Well, I've said that before. Monitor. What's the result? Don't expect immediate results. You know, they're talking about once you've got once you make an impression, you're not going to sell. You need to get lots of impressions for people, for most customers to get awareness of you. Now, the other thing that was said to me is LinkedIn, like a lot of social media, is full of people who are clickers. They happily click. What you want is not the people who are clicking, the people who are reading. So you're really trying to get that message right and not just get people clicking out of interest because they're bored watching their morning coffee. You want the people that engage with your message, and that's a big difference. Okay, follow through. So when you get a lead, set an alarm on it so that some people get it. Don't look at your marketing every 2 days, because that's 48 hours after you could have had a lead. Get in there, and if you get all that right, well, phone the Porsche garage. Well, folks, that is the shot. That's the fastest run through I've done of that. And what I didn't do is go into how you actually physically set up the advertising, because that takes a lot of time and a lot of explaining a lot of things. But hopefully I've given you an idea of the sort of thing you can do, and some of the exciting things happening with partnership between LinkedIn and Microsoft. And watch this space. There's a lot more coming. Back to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Ian. Very much appreciate your time and showing us around LinkedIn. Is definitely a minefield that we definitely need a map of. Like you said, it's very long term, not a short term benefit there. Just wondering if there's any questions for Ian while we have him on the call. No. If there are any questions.
If anyone wants any advice or support on that, for goodness sake, just give me a shout. No problem.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Ian. Appreciate that. What I'm just going to do just before, I know we had some late joiners, so for the benefit of them, just run through some slides introducing the speakers of today. I should have done that right at the start. So if I just share my screen, it would just take one moment. For a bit of context, let me know, can you see that?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yep. Perfect, great, thank you. So yes, as you already know, you're at the Microsoft Cloud South Coast user group for today. And you have just heard from Ian Bourne, who's given us a great map of the minefield on how to use Sales Navigator for marketing and LinkedIn. And really some interesting content there. So feel free to drop him any questions if you have. He had his details up there at the end of the presentation. We are just about to hear from Nick Walker, who's also going to talk about the importance of data and also the impact of poor data within CRM systems. And then we're going to close with Mathew from Ingram Micro, who's going to explain to us why Dynamics isn't just for enterprises and really is for SMBs and how to get the most out of that. Yeah, interesting to hear about that. News on upcoming events. We obviously have the event today. We have an Azure event coming up next month. I believe it's the 2nd of June. A modern workplace and power platform event on the first Tuesday of July, We're going to be skipping August because of the summer holidays. However, these events, fingers crossed, will be in person. Most definitely the Dynamics event on the 7th of September. And to top it all off, the event of the year, which I think Aaron and Nathan will agree with, is the South Coast Summit, which will be on the Saturday, the 16th of October. And there is a link there. I'll post that in the chat to the page, our South Coast user group page. And I'm sure when we get into a room, we will have Simon Bath from Mexa Solutions. We'll be providing a round of drinks when we can get into a room. And we very much appreciate that from him. I don't think he could make it tonight, but just a shout out to himself. And there it is. I've already mentioned the South Coast Summit, which will be held on the 16th of October. And if things are going as well as they are at the moment, we should be in a room. So yes, thank you very much. Before I go on too much, I will thank Ian again and hand over to Nick from AFD.
Perfect. Thank you, Connor. That was an exciting schedule you've got there. Looking forward to being involved with. I suppose I just want to make sure that everyone can see my screen. You should see the AFD logo and the importance of contact data quality.
Can indeed, yeah.
Excellent. So there'll be 3 or 4 main things that we run through tonight. It will start with a little bit about AFD, so you've got some background of myself and the organisation I work for, just to know how we have some knowledge around these areas. That will then go on to the typical sort of data quality issues that organisations face with contact data. Show you some ways in which that can be improved and resolved, be it at the point that data is captured or with data that you're already working with. And then close with some examples within Dynamics and how things can be improved, and any questions that you might have. Please feel free, because there's not too many of us tonight, to run through and just ask any questions as they arise. I'm happy to answer them as they come about. I'll give you a little bit of an idea about AFD. We've operated for over 8 years in regards to helping organisations validate and cleanse contact data. We've got over 450 years experience at the business across all the teams in helping with this. We serve over 5,000 customers, and each year we validate over 1 billion requests for individual pieces of data. Myself, I've worked at the organisation AFD for 8 years now. I came into the role originally straight from university on a graduate scheme, and over those years have helped hundreds of organisations with the sort of things that we're going to talk about today. And finally, here's some examples of the organisations we actually work with, ranging from DPD, one of the largest parcel delivery companies in the UK, right through to some NFPs like Lifeboats and Marie Curie. So on to the typical sort of issues that organisations face with contact data. To really help with this, I think it's worth putting you in the situation where you may be a telephone operator, someone on a shop floor, someone working from home now with a lot of noise going on in the background, and they're having to go through these processes of collecting and inputting large amounts of data on individuals. What that can often lead to is some of the typical mistakes around missing postcodes or half correct postcodes. You'll have wrong postcodes. Often people believe that their postcode is what it previously used to be, but it may have been reallocated by the Royal Mail, who managed address data for the UK in association with local organisations. You may even have incorrect formatting, such as postcodes in the wrong field, or inconsistent formatting where a town is in address line 2, 3, or 4. Many sorts of formats can come across when different individuals are entering addresses and have a different idea of what an address should look like. At the same time, spelling mistakes can easily happen. That kind of covers one of the core elements of contact data, the address. But there are other elements that are very important too. Things like the email address, they can be keyed in incorrectly, and once that happens at the point of entry, when it's going into your system, once it's going into Dynamics, it can be very challenging to try and resolve that afterwards. Unlike the address, where that can often be usable, although it may lead to certain issues, it can often still be usable. The email address, be it one character wrong, can lead to something completely undeliverable. Same again with the telephone number. If there is a mistake made there, when you capture that information, it's often unusable. So you then have to rely on and hope that you've either got an accurate address or an accurate email. What you'll often find is with data entry is that people are under pressure to try and enter it quickly for a number of different reasons, for customer service levels, or just they've got KPIs where they have to enter a large volume of addresses each day. They'll often put limited information. So with phone numbers, you'll often have missing country codes. That can lead to issues in the future when trying to contact people. You'll have issues around inconsistent formatting of addresses. That can cause challenges when using particular functions of different systems. So that leads us on to what impact these inconsistencies of address entry, phone entry, telephone, email address entry can lead to. So one of the first ones, naturally, reduce productivity. If you have individuals, customer facing side of an organization struggling to enter data, then it's taking them more time, and that is time that they could be spent serving the next customer, pushing down service times, or with other opportunities in the organization. At the same time, if you're someone that's working with data that's already been captured and in a database, we speak with hundreds of individuals that's their role in some sort of data stewardship role, where they say, I spend a huge amount of my time trying to resolve issues with data that is already in our system. Instead of trying to focus on the objective of what they want to use that data for, they're trying to fix it. What you'll often want to do with data when it comes into the business is link that up to other things that you already know about your customers, or you already know about a particular area, be it something relating to geospatial information, through to a particular funding criteria for some sort of outreach service that you're providing. These will be specific to your business, but you'll often always want to link the data that you've captured to other data sets. Now, if that data is inconsistent, has spelling mistakes or inaccuracies, the match rate that you'll see connecting those to the other data sets will be much lower than what you'd like to achieve. At the same time, you'll be at risk of ambiguity and errors that can lead from inconsistent data. You'll often find that if you've entered a particular address that is then ambiguous and could be linked to an individual. We've helped organizations with this. It could be linked to an individual that's 3 doors down from where it's meant to be, or often the next town across. You could be sending important information or confidential information to the wrong address, and that can lead to a lot of damage in the brand image and the professional service, which we'll go on to after this. Poor customer service can be a poor result. It can be a result of having a lack of functionality to help those that are entering data at the point of entry. So you'll often be on the phone, someone may be taking a particular order, and they're struggling with some sort of strong accent or a poor line, bad connection, whatever it may be. it can lead to customers being frustrated, and ultimately that's not what we want to be doing. As I mentioned earlier, if you are sending out information with inconsistent addresses, be it a letter, a parcel, communicating with them on some sort of mailing where you're using personal information in there, addressing it to them, and there are mistakes within those things that you're sending, it doesn't create the professional image that you want. Organizations spend such a huge amount of time, invest a huge amount of money in building up their brand and their customers' association with that brand, that the last thing you want is to send out a letter where you spelt their name wrong, or their address looks like ultimately a bit of a mess. So things around controlling and improving data capture and maintaining that can really help protect your professional image. Ultimately, you'll have duplicate data entry, which can lead to challenges around understanding your customers the way you really want to when you're trying to build up a profile of those that you best serve and ultimately that you want to find more of. Having duplicate entries will have a detrimental effect on that. So we've covered so far the sort of challenges that you'll see and the sort of impacts that can have on your business. Next, I want to give you an idea of services that can help with those things and help the organization in terms of capturing data and maintaining that. The first one, naturally, is the point of entry when people are keying in this information. And that can really range from a range of APIs to help reduce the risk of poor data being entered into Dynamics. The next solution we'll briefly run over, after data has already been captured and is existing in your database, what can I do with information there that I know is either 3, 4, 5 years or more years older? Some of it started to degrade. Some of the information has changed and needs to be maintained. So that's around data cleansing and maintenance of the information that you already have. So onto the point of entry, there'll be 3 key areas which can be helped with that. The home, the address of the individual, the email address, as we mentioned earlier, and the telephone, be that a landline or mobile. We're seeing shifts from individuals using landlines across the mobiles. I'm sure you're all aware of that. So these are really key parts of information when trying to communicate and understand your customers. So first, the address. Be able to have a look at ways in which we can help with this. You'll often see these sorts of solutions online. I'm sure you've used them when you're doing some sort of shopping or purchasing goods. You type in a postcode and it brings up the individual's address. What you're able to do here is, instead of having one of your employees typing out a full address, which could be in excess of 40 characters, you've been able to do that by entering just a postcode, and that's saved for the selected address 36 characters. If you're able to do that for each address someone enters every day, it's a huge saving and in productivity improvement. Here's another idea of the sort of way an address can be entered. If a customer is not familiar with the postcode or may have given an incorrect one, and because their postcode has been reallocated, or they've just misunderstood their postcode from the date that they moved into their address, you're able to type a fragment of address. These are newer services that you might not come across as often when you're using them online, but they really replicate the feel and functionality of Google searching. In this example, 32 characters were saved. So again, productivity improvements. And if it's a user with a customer on the phone, it's really improving the customer service. So onto the email address here. We all know what an email address looks like. We know what it should contain, an @ sign, some sort of domain, and something before the @ sign. So typically we'd know what's wrong. Often users or data enterers would know the common domains as well that they would expect: Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo, all sorts of popular domains which would be familiar with and have an idea of spelling. It still doesn't always help individuals when they're in a rush keying in an email address, an address or a phone number, where mistakes can be made just by lack of awareness or having pressure to enter something quickly. So in this example, you can quite obviously see that it was incorrect. Well, you can have functionality there available that will correct users and take that burden away from them and trying to get everything correct when they're entering information. As you can see here, it's popped up saying, did you mean Jonathan Stocks at hotmail.com? And then you get a correct email address. A similar sort of functionality for the telephone number. Here, it can often be harder to understand if something's been entered incorrect. Have I got the correct amount of digits? We probably know how many should be there, but when we're entering something quickly, have we realized that that's been incorrect? There may be some basic formatting checks on the front end of systems, which will check if there's the correct amount of digits, but they don't actually know if that number is live and in use. What we can see here is that this was originally incorrect phone number. It was sent off to a service like AFD's to be checked and told it was incorrect. So the user has said, has repeated for the phone number and got the correct one, and that's been validated as a mobile number and based in the UK, and it's correct. So we've looked at some generic examples. So here we'll see some actual use of these services for the addresses in Dynamics. All services would be available within Dynamics if someone did need these. But we can see the functionality of typing in a postcode, one we saw earlier, selecting an address and having that entered into Dynamics. It saved a huge amount of time in address entry, made sure the address is entered consistently, is formatted correctly, and we know that all that data there is to the Royal Mail standard in terms of UK address data. Here's another example that we saw earlier where a partial address has been entered. It brings up two options automatically, and the user can select that. That covers the point of entry functionality that you can see. So it's worth moving on to the batch cleansing of addresses or tidying up records that you already have in your database. Based on studies with some of AFD Software's customers, what we can tell you where point of entry validation services aren't used, something to help the users keying in addresses, 40% of postal addresses are typically inaccurate. 14% of email addresses are often inaccurate, and 12% of phone numbers are inaccurate. So large proportions of organizations' databases will see incorrect data entry. Here you can see some example records which we either have permission to use or are altered for privacy purposes. They are all kind of typical records that you might see in your database. It's certainly examples that I often see when helping organizations. You'll have the key elements of a name, first name, surname, address, through to a mobile, some sort of landline, and email address. Now, at first glance, we could probably pick out some mistakes there, some inconsistencies. We could find some spelling mistakes somewhere, I'm sure, but it would take a lot of time. And when you've got 5,000 records, 20,000, 500,000, 5 million records, it's not a particularly efficient job to have individual humans running through that, trying to find those errors. We'll run through some of the mistakes that we can see here. Inconsistent first name and surname in salutation. We can see that they haven't been entered in each of the same fields. Mistakes in the first line of the address. Inconsistent formatting of a phone number here, clearly in the wrong field as well. Again, inconsistent formatting. We've got a large proportion of the address in address line 2. The postcode here, we can see, is next to Glasgow in address line 3. On the second record, we've got an abbreviated country. These sorts of things happen all the time because people are trying to enter records quickly. We've got the uppercasing on the town there, which is common for some organisations, but it's inconsistent in regards to how the data has been entered. We've got a wrong postcode there, which would be very hard to spot as a human being. Again, another wrong postcode, invalid phone number, another a landline in a mobile field, and an invalid email address. So we run that through typical services that you could run through to tidy those up. There are a huge range of options that you have available, especially from AFD, to help tidy those up, clean those up, and append additional information where needed. And we see the name, surname, addresses, they're all becoming more consistent in the fields that they're in. The postcodes have been tidied up and they're in the correct fields. Phone numbers have been rearranged appropriately. Here we don't have the landline field, just for the example, but they have been validated and checked. It's worth pointing out that it is possible for a landline, mobile and email address to do live checks on those data sets. So it's not always, what you'll often see at a basic level is format checking on phone numbers and emails at the point of entry, where it's just checking, is there an @ is there a .com, .co.uk, .net, whatever it may be. But it is possible to do live checks on those records to make sure that when they're entered, you'll be able to use them. Here, it's just worth pointing out for these particular pieces of data, as I was just saying, they actually needed live validations to be performed on these to know that they were incorrect. So what we've run through is a bit about AFD, gave you some examples of the typical mistakes that are made with data entry and what you'll find in your database. The impact that can have on organizations. We run through some examples of services that can resolve those, a couple of ones in Dynamics, and looked at an example database. So is there any questions or anything that someone would like to talk through?
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks,
see if anyone has any questions. I have one or two, so
yeah,
I'll let everyone else go first if they have any. Nope, while they're thinking. Firstly, thank you. That's great. Gives us a real life example of addressing. You spoke a lot about addressing and email, phone. I was wondering what else. Is there anything else that gets returned, like any additional information that can be populated, or maybe some scenarios that you've had in the past?
Yeah, so there is a lot of additional information around addresses outside, that are available that people are interested in. So it's one of the key things that AFD as an organisation focus on. So you'll have things around local authorities. You'll have ward information. You'll have health information. One of the really important ones, demographic information. So giving an idea of the affluence and life stages of individuals. But People might want to know more about the sort of properties that their customers live in or that they're engaging with. So there is a huge kind of data universe available, which we can either help source additional information that people would be interested in, or we'll have it readily available.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, because I think there's different scenarios with different companies, different gems in that data that they need completely, and not everyone wants 80 fields returned into their system. It's not all useful, I guess. Cool. Any other questions before we leave Nick to listening to Matthew? I think that's it, Nick. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, and hopefully see you soon down in Southampton.
Yes, thank you. I look forward to it.
Great. Right, Matthew, take us away.
Thanks a lot.
Why are enterprises having all the fun, and why should us SMBs be more excited?
Okay, I will. I'll share screen. Just let me know when you can see the screen. That'd be great.
Yep, got it.
Perfect. Thank you. So yeah, I mean, firstly, I'll just introduce myself. So Mathew Batterbee. So I'm the Global Senior Manager for Business Applications at Ingram Micro Cloud. For those that don't know, Ingram Micro Cloud, indirect provider, managing around 55,000 partners and around 365,000 end customers, like 13 million seats in 64 countries all over the world. So, you know, one of the largest, I think we are the largest indirect provider globally. And we've recently been told we're the fastest growing Dynamics 365 indirect provider as well globally. So, you know, a lot of the programs and things that we're putting in place are really helping partners grow. We've seen that we're growing faster than the channel average, which is always good. My role at Ingram, I lead the global strategy and programs for business applications. So supporting our markets all over the world, making sure that we've got the right people, the right processes, the right strategies, and programs and things in place to make sure our partners are growing their business and offering more value to their customers. And as you can see there, proud daddy to Maver. So she is the brains behind the operation, as I say. You see all my contact details on there as well. So yeah, today we're going to be taking a look at essentially, you know, SMBs, basically enterprises are no longer having all the fun, is the simple way that I would put it. But we're going to be taking a look at the advantages that Dynamics brings to SMBs. We're going to take a look at some of the issues faced today, the better together story with the Power Platform and Microsoft 365, and then what more you can do and what resources are out there. So I'm going to try and cover all this off in the time. And then why are we here? So to learn and the opportunity. So I'm going to say, Ian verified one of my statistics before when he said 96% of businesses have less than SMB, so that's less than 10 employees. So yeah, exactly what I've seen. So thank you, Ian, for verifying that. That would have been embarrassing if I'd have come out with something different. But just to kind of highlight the huge opportunity when it comes to the UK market across CRM and ERP, you know, looking at about $2 billion business in CRM, $2.5 billion business around ERP. And when you look at this, there's 6 million SMBs in the UK that actually represent 99% of all businesses. Now, the reason that's a little bit different, SMB in this scenario is anything less than 250 employees. The 96%, that's less than 10 employees. But you can see they represent a huge amount of the turnover in the UK, represent a huge amount of employment as well. So SMBs is a huge opportunity. And actually, you know, we're seeing on average over the last few years around 350 new businesses getting started up every year. So, you know, it's just growing more and more, and more of these are SMBs. So business applications have really needed to be at the forefront of enabling SMBs to do more, enabling startups to get started up better. And I think, you know, Microsoft really have been at the forefront of that and have enabled using Dynamics 365 to improve things like distractions. We do live in the age of distraction. And we've seen, you know, when you look at some of the statistics that are out there, you know, and I'll use sellers as the example, distractions are actually reducing a seller's performance by 14%. And that's not distractions like a mobile phone or, you know, Facebook or anything like that. That is just around 60% of sellers saying that they're using too many tools. And 64% of a seller's time is spent on non-selling activities. So things like updating incorrect contact information, as we've just seen, spending time doing stuff that's really not necessary. And it's not even just, using sellers as an example, customer service as well. You look at the end customers today, 54% of people have a higher expectation of customer service now than they did a year ago. I'm probably one of those people. And 90% of people will use customer service as a factor as to whether they do business with a company or not. I'm exactly the same. I've recently just had a load of tiling done in my house, and I paid more because I got a better service from someone that offered me a cheap quote. They took ages to get back to me, and by this point I've given up. I've got a low attention span, so I'm not waiting around. So it really highlights that actually having the right systems, having the right tools in place to be more productive and make sure you're able to manage your customers better is massively important. And again, Dynamics really does lead the way on this. When we take a look at some problems faced by SMBs, I like highlighting this. And you'll see that Dynamics is on there, but you look at all the other solutions that are in there, and this really is a huge problem that I'm seeing more and more of is, they might be using Dynamics for CRM, but then using, I don't know, Sage for their finances. Why? I think is the question that I would ask. Why not use Dynamics 365 across the board? Why not use Microsoft across the board? If it's really going to simplify your processes, I don't even call the M365 and Dynamics integration, it's embedded. You can embed Dynamics 365 into Teams and Outlook. It's a seamless integration, if you want to call it that. But for me, it's even more than that. So it really does improve the performance of your team, but also improve the performance of a business as well. So you take a look at some of these, and I'm not going to sit here and slate any other solution. I really am not. I've used some of these. I've used some that aren't on there. They're not bad. But the problem that's facing more and more organizations is things like the data being siloed apart, people having to input data more than once. Again, I'm going to go back to the contact information, having to put that in multiple systems, why? All these kind of things really are causing problems. But it's also causing, a poor customer experience, a poor user experience. There's a high statistic out there. I think it's like 60% of people would leave an organization within their probation if the technology wasn't up to scratch. And I kind of agree with that. I think if I was going to an interview, if my boss watches this on YouTube, I'm not. But if I was going to an interview, I'd probably ask if they use Teams, because I've used it now for, many years, and I use it every day. I use it more than any other tool. I have my Dynamics built into it. It works for me. And I'm more productive because of it. So, it really is important that these organizations have good technology to get started with. I think long gone are the days, and I've worked for a startup company, and we built everything in like Excel. I built a CRM system in Excel. I built a finance system in Excel. I think long gone are the days where we can really do that, because you start to onboard people and you've got these really horrible processes in place. It's not going to work. And then, you go through a thing like we've just been through over the last, over a year now. Okay, you could say that you could have an Excel spreadsheet built into Teams. You can all update it, but how long is that really going to last? And is it really going to be kept up to date? Is someone going to save it down to their computer and update a separate copy and all this kind of stuff? It gets very messy very quickly. So there are huge problems. And when we think about that, it really does, for me, this is what should be encouraged. And again, the real way to gain a competitive edge using Dynamics 365 is not just to use Dynamics 365, it's to use, Microsoft 365, Power Platform, Azure services, really thinking about that digital feedback loop, engaging customers, empowering employees, optimizing operations and transforming products and services, using data and intelligence, using that AI and machine learning that nobody else brings like Microsoft. It really is very powerful. So when we take a look at the M365 Dynamics 365 story, it's all around modernizing sales productivity with a Salesforce automation solution that helps sellers do less, not more. Dynamics 365 Sales Pro is a perfect example of an SMB solution, works seamlessly with Microsoft 365. So sellers can easily and intuitively manage customer relationships and close deals using the tools that they already have and they're already familiar with. You know, I was brought up using Microsoft solutions. I'm pretty sure a lot of us were. You know, I'm probably one of them guilty people that's never used anything like G Suites or anything at all, but I don't want to. You know, and the way to achieve sales productivity in the modern environment is not to give sellers more disconnected tools. You know, as we saw earlier, sellers already feel like they've got too many disjointed tools. So what they need are solutions that work with the tools that they're already comfortable with and familiar with. This way, sellers can gain new capabilities without the burden and distractions that come with adding the new disconnected tools, time wasted in training on those new solutions, ramping up, reconciling data between systems, entering duplicate data in multiple systems, and flipping back and forth between tools as well. There's nothing worse than that. I've got 3 screens, and even I wouldn't want to be going back and forth between different systems. So Microsoft's really helping SMB organizations modernize sales productivity with a streamlined SFA solution that enables sellers to do less, not more. You know, it really is a powerful thing to see. And the fact that SMBs now are using more of their data, you know, and we've seen the importance of accurate data entry, but then being able to do something off the back of that and use that actual data entry for things like marketing, or just having the right data. You know, I've seen a lot of CRM systems where, you know, we've got one account that has actually like 4 accounts in the CRM system with different contact details and people that have left the business and all those kind of things. It's very messy. So being able to streamline that and then use that data and analytics as well to actually get a 360-degree view of your business, as well as a 360-degree view of your customers, it's an extremely powerful thing. And then if you're using, I don't know, Sales Pro or Business Central, being able to, you know, sales speak into finance seamlessly, being able to forecast properly, take the guesswork out of things, it's really important, you know, and then embedding it in Microsoft Teams as well. But when we take a look at this, you know, again, I've talked about some of these things already, but it really is about that. I'm sure we've all heard the term work smarter, not harder. And I think Dynamics 365 enables, I skipped on too far. Dynamics 365, I think, enables an organization to do just that, work smarter, not harder. Don't, you know, again, it just goes back to that, using all these different tools, different systems, people having their own stuff saved down in Excel or whatever else, really streamlining all those things, and then being able to be more proactive in their approach as a business using good tools is extremely powerful. And we're seeing that, you know, I talked about those 350 startups on average that are starting up each year. You know, technology comes down to a lot of their success, and being able to help them get up and running. I've worked with a number of partners that their key customers are startup organizations, and they support them, and they're seeing some great success because startup organizations and SMBs are using good technology from the start. Dynamics 365 is a solution that, you know, not only is it a system that's going to help them grow their business because of improved productivity and all these things, it's going to help them actually, you know, it's going to grow with them. Sorry, that's the terminology I want to use. You know, I see a lot of companies that say they use things like QuickBooks and Xero. Again, I'm not going to say anything negative about any other solution, but I'm also seeing those same businesses then coming back, you know, later in life, because they've outgrown those solutions or they're very close to outgrowing them. So, you know, again, starting off with something like Business Central as an example, and then being able to develop that into a bigger solution when it's needed, it's a really powerful thing. And, you know, being able to tailor interactions with customers as well. So as sellers juggle an increasing number of stakeholders, it gets harder to tailor and personalize interactions. So working seamlessly in Outlook with Dynamics 365 Sales Pro provides a 360-degree view of customers' interactions across the company and sales activities without switching apps. So sellers have the context, knowledge, and status needed to personalize every interaction with buyers. So Dynamics 365 app for Outlook surfaces customer engagement records, sales insights, and alerts right from within Outlook. And then being able to collaborate on deals in a modern workspace. So sellers and sales managers can collaborate on deals across functions and geography with customer information and document sharing directly from Microsoft Teams. Dynamics 365 app for Teams embeds Dynamics 365 customer records, sales content, reports, and updates all within Microsoft Teams. So for example, Teams can share a sales presentation, then easily schedule a review meeting or a chat with a few clicks without having to switch applications, and being able to create and share documents as well. Dynamics 365 app for Teams allows users to store and access sales documents in one place right from within Teams. So sellers can collaborate and personalize sales documents embedded with Microsoft 365 tools that fit in the way that sellers work all in one place. Being able to, I work with people all over the world and do presentations with people all over the world. Being able to build those presentations in Teams, all collaborating at the same time, not having to save down an email and all those kind of things. It's such a simplified approach. And then being able to work on the go as well, which, let's face it, has never been more valuable. I think we're seeing more and more workforces becoming much more mobile. I've seen a lot of things going out around some organizations even looking at maybe doing office work 4 days a week, and giving that kind of remote flexibility approach to people that want it. So, being able to work on the go, and Dynamics 365, enables sellers to work anytime, anywhere within the mobile application. Sellers can stay productive with mobile optimized capabilities, are more likely to achieve their sales goals. It's actually been proven that 65% of sales teams using a mobile CRM achieve their targets, comparing that with 22% that don't. So a huge impact that Dynamics 365 or just a mobile CRM solution is really enabling sellers to achieve a lot more. And with Dynamics 365, you can start simple with just capabilities that your team needs now, and support additional business needs as the business grows. As I've talked about, starting off with something simple and then building that out. Dynamics is a solution you will not outgrow. It's going to help you grow, and it's going to grow with you. So a pre-packaged application like Dynamics 365 Sales with role-based setup and easy to configure lets organizations get up and running quickly without the need to spend extra time and money setting up and deploying capabilities that really just aren't needed right now. So it's all about keeping it simple for SMBs, but enabling them to get as complicated, if you want to call it that word, complicated as you like. But you can also configure the sales application for your specific sales processes. So, and you can do that without any technical resources as well. So again, it's really easy to configure and make it bespoke for your business. So with Dynamics 365, you can count on a platform that meets your needs today and scales and adapts to your needs in the future as well. And when your sales organization is ready, and you can add more advanced capabilities in sales and beyond, from predictive lead scoring to LinkedIn to marketing to customer service. And over the next couple of slides, I just wanted to highlight how using Dynamics 365 in Teams can improve productivity, simplify processes, and prevent users from needing to flip-flop from one application to another. And this is using Business Central as an example. So being able to search for your Business Central information, being able to find a contact card, get that information right to you. And again, still haven't left Teams here in this example. Ooh, let me just go back, sorry. So being able to actually see all the information that you have on that person in that contact card, being able to see information on opportunities, forecasting, anything like that, all from within Teams. So again, just being able to be more productive and not have to go flip-flopping around between applications or anything like that, all in one place, is, again, it's just extremely powerful. I do the majority of my work in Teams, so I'm able to do that. But it's not just about Microsoft 365 and Dynamics 365. I do like to bring in the Power Platform as well, because for those that are familiar, you know how brilliant it can be. You've got Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents. We're seeing a huge increase in the need for Power Apps. Well, just Power Platform in general. We've seen over the last kind of 18 months around a 2,000% increase in demand across the globe. And that's a very similar story when you look into the individual markets. If I look at the individual UK as a market, very similar results. So Power Platform is something that is much more sought after than it ever has been. and more organizations, in particular, things like Power Automate, being able to really streamline those processes. And it's amazing. I speak to customers, I speak to our partners all the time, understanding, these outdated processes that are in place. Perfect example, when I bought my house, not too long ago, I think it's late last year, the solicitors sent me an email, and it's kind of, can you print this off and sign it and send it back? And it's like, well, I don't own a printer, so we're in trouble here. Luckily, I knew someone that did, but these kind of outdated processes that are in place, we need to get past those. And again, enabling startup organizations to really automate a lot of their processes, help a startup or an SMB organization focus on what's important. There is no point in wasting time and effort on processes that are just long-winded, repetitive as well. Anything that's repetitive can be automated, and using Power Automate, you can do that. But also being able to build those bespoke applications in Power Apps and again, enable you to spend less time messing about on things that aren't important, and whatever you as a business are focused on, let you do more of that, and deal with your customers and deal with your solutions, your products, or whatever it is that you do, rather than wasting time. So I could talk all day about Power Platform, but I am conscious of time, so I will not. So just taking a quick look at this, and again, being an indirect provider, we deal with Microsoft partners all the time. So I do like to just highlight both of these advantages. So if you're watching this on YouTube and maybe you do a bit of Dynamics today, or you don't sell any of it, there's a lot of advantages into selling Dynamics for you. In fact, at Ingram, we're seeing partners that have added Dynamics into their offering, of which we have doubled the number of partners transacting Dynamics globally, or over doubled over the last 12 months. And we're seeing those partners grow their all-up cloud business 35% faster than those partners that don't. So that's not just Dynamics revenue, that is Azure, that's modern work, because they're really encouraging that all-up messaging of Microsoft, everything under one author. And actually, they're lowering their customers' total cost of ownership by moving everything to the cloud. So they're actually adding a huge amount of value to their own customers. And as you can see, for users, you're going to ensure that you are GDPR compliant. That's concern number one. You've got your security, you're secure, your data secure, but also you're going to have that great visibility of all your data. You're going to be able to use your data for something more than just something nice to look at. You're going to be able to use it real time, forecasting, planning, take the guesswork out of things. Overall, you're going to reduce your operational costs. Again, you can read that slide yourself, but the main thing that I'm going to call out on here is the huge return on investment. There was a Gartner study done. For every $1 spent on Dynamics 365, the return on investment for the end customer is $17. So, scale that up to a license, scale that up to, 5 users or whatever that might be. There's a huge return on investment here, and that is a very quick return on investment. So imagine as your organization grows, you don't outgrow Dynamics, it grows with you and it helps you grow. That return on investment just increases. So a huge opportunity for you, whether you would consider yourself a user or consider yourself a Microsoft partner. And as I am an indirect provider, I do want to do a quick shout out for Microsoft partners. I want to make sure, I always like to give something a little bit extra. So I want to make sure that actually you know about some of the resources that are available to you as a partner to help you add more value to your customers. So this is an advantage for customers as well, because if your tech provider is accessing these kind of resources, these tools that are available, then you're going to be getting even more value. But actually, some of these things as a user, you can attend. If you want to attend some training days from Microsoft, go and do that. So just to highlight this on a quick video, one I prepared earlier, just going through some resources. So there's some incredible SMB focused resources here. The link there at the top, but again, I can send this, it's not a problem at all. There's incredible resources focused on SMBs, whether it's licensing, training, marketing resources, just all sorts of information here that Microsoft are gifting partners. If you're a partner, you can access business applications consultations as well. If you want to add more value to your customer, access a Microsoft partner technical consultant for free and be able to answer some of those tricky questions you might be getting asked. Cloud enablement desk, a Microsoft resource for partners to help them grow their cloud practice. There is also some great free collateral that's available. I'm not even signed in to do this demo that I'm doing right now. There are around 5,500. That's actually grown. I did this. I think I did this video a couple of weeks ago. It's actually now up to like 5,600 and something. So it's grown. They keep adding to it all the time, but you don't have to just search for a product. You can search for a keyword like security, and you can see all this collateral. There's pitch decks, there's case studies. So if you're a customer and you want to see a case study, feel free to check this out as well. But there's information, there's FAQ sheets. So, you know, whether you're an end customer or you consider yourself a partner, there's loads of information in here to help you and answer those questions. Feel free to set up a free trial environment. It's really easy to do. Simply click on it, enter your work email and phone number, and away you go. If you want to keep up to date with the product updates, but you don't want to be reading a 360-something page document, the product updates page is amazing. So you can download the full release wave plan, or sometimes in that product updates section, there's really cool short videos as well on the new features and functionality. For partners, if you haven't seen this website before, you need to. dynamicspartners.transform.microsoft.com, bit of a mouthful. I can't think of a better website Microsoft have for Dynamics partners, and there's a lot, and I know a lot of them. And then this is something that I created, which is our Dynamics 365 partner guide. It's a simple PDF, but I built it out as a click-through document, so you don't have to go scrolling. Again, for partners that want to add even more value to their customers in Dynamics, there's so much information here, whether they're migrating from an old version to a new version. If you're thinking, they're currently using Sage, well, what's the advantage of Business Central over Sage? That information is here. So I created it as a one-stop shop. Everything under one roof, we'll say, including information, if there's difference in professional, enterprise, premium, what does that difference look like? Again, all in one place. The information's out there, but I wanted to create something that was a little bit, easier to navigate. It's in there, and and then there's external links as well to a lot of these resources. So, and there's things in here like key selling points as well, for customers as well to look at, understand, well, what's it going to do for them if they get Dynamics 365 Sales or Business Central. There's information on the Better Together story, so Teams integration with Dynamics 365, and there's more information here. So this is mainly for partners. There's no reason why a customer you can't screenshot and send, because there's some really valuable information in there as well. Let me just go to the next slide. Is it going to let me? There we go. So to sum up, look at that, 8:27. I'm good at this timing. Enterprises are really no longer having all the fun when it comes to Dynamics 365. It is well and truly an SMB solution as well, and it's one of these solutions, as I mentioned, I've said it a number of times, but you'll hear it a lot. It's a solution that's going to help you grow your business and grow with you. I think there's a stat there, a bad CRM or ERP solution is one you're going to grow out of in 10 years. 10 years is a long time, but that would still be considered a bad solution. So if you think about that, if you're currently using something else that you think you're going to outgrow, or maybe if you're not going to outgrow, you're saying to yourself you're not going to grow, is the way I would put that. And again, just to sum up that key point there, using business applications from multiple authors, it's causing a lot of problems for businesses. And like I say, these are customers as well, and users that could be using Dynamics for one thing. They could be using Dynamics for their sales. They could be using, Zendesk for their customer service, Sage for their finances. They've still got Dynamics in there somewhere, but it's still causing problems. We really need to be thinking about that whole story and that Better Together story with Microsoft 365 Power Platform as well. There's loads of resources out there to help you. Whatever you would consider naming yourself a user or a partner. And personally speaking, I am always happy to help. So feel free to reach out to me. You can scan the QR code there. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn. Follow me on Twitter. I always post loads of updates and things on there. And sometimes just occasional funny video. Well, I would say funny videos, but you may question the humor. But also feel free to ping me an email. More than happy to speak offline. But yeah, I'll stop sharing, and I will say any questions.
We'll go back to you on funny videos. That's fantastic. Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, no problem.
I think you're right. I think Dynamics was a bit of an echo there.
that might be, I don't know, maybe
That's right. I think you're right. Yeah, with Dynamics and the enterprise size organizations, they kind of hog the limelight, but really it comes to SMBs. It's different now with the out of the box. Things can go in so much easier, and then grow with the organization, make the customizations, and all the data is going in the Dataverse anyway, whether you realize it or not. And then it can be utilized and used in other ways in BI, in customer insights when you're ready to use that, and just grow with the organization. So yeah, I think it's fantastic that Microsoft have switched on now, especially with the SMB side.
Yeah, definitely, and we're seeing more and more partners and more and more customers being able to be implemented much quicker. A typical ERP implementation, 6 months, and by the end of it, everyone hates one another. We're seeing, a matter of weeks, and partner, and customers are getting up and running on Business Central or a CRM, and it's really powerful. Like I say, we're seeing a really good impact on the amount of these SMBs or startups rather that are being very successful because they're using good technology from day one. Like I say, I've worked for a startup, and there's a reason I don't work there now.
Yeah, no, completely. You said about 60% of people in an organization would just leave. I think the same is said. I know you touched on the content within the container, and Nick spoke about it earlier about contact quality. I think the stat is 70% of CRMs fail because of poor data quality. So, getting the data content right, getting the right container allows you to then succeed and keeps your clients happy, and keeps people who are working for you happy.
Yeah, definitely. I think I need good technology to want to work. I think is the way I'll put it.
Yeah, 100%. So no, thank you so much. Sorry, I'm hogging on the line. Like, if you any questions, I think everyone's very happy and much appreciated it. So thank you, Matthew.
No problem. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Fantastic. No problem. Well, that concludes everything for today. We will be regrouping in a few weeks' time for the Azure South Coast user group, and then we have the October event, which everyone should most definitely attend, as it will be in person, fingers crossed. So yeah, thank you very much, and speak to you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers all. Thank you, Connor.